What scares you the most about working out? Is it this? Or this? Or what about this? Look, I get it. There are some gnarly ways that you can get hurt while lifting. But does that mean you shouldn't lift? Short answer, no. Longer answer, fuck no. Longest answer, the rest of this video. Let's take all of our existing assumptions, we'll put them in a box, we'll put that box in a corner,
and then I'll mail that box to myself.
And we are going to start with understanding how people get hurt in the gym. And the answer is all kinds of ways. I just a couple weeks ago jammed my finger while putting away a dumbbell. I once cut myself on a weight rack while demonstrating for a class. I have stubbed my toes. I have bashed my head. I've skinned my shins. I especially had one really bad raspberry going on my shin from deadlifting. And so every time I came back, I would scrape it right off again. I recently messed up the catch on a power clean and the bar actually bounced right off my trachea. I've hurt both my upper and lower back multiple times. The last time I hurt my upper back was during bench pressing somehow. And the last time I hurt my lower back was actually the source of my first YouTube video. I've had aches and pains in every joint I've got. Wrists, shoulders, elbows, knees, hips, ankles. Gym's starting to sound a little dangerous now. Perhaps it's worth adding that outside the gym, I've broken my toes multiple times, including from running down the stairs, and one time as a kid inside of a McDonald's playpen. I stubbed my toes regularly at home. I've broken my elbow while biking in the city. I got stitches right here from accidentally smashing a wine glass. I once threw out my back on my 25th birthday from standing outside my friend's house and standing up slightly straighter. I accidentally knocked a kitchen knife off the counter and the blade fell point first into my foot. Speaking of which, in the kitchen, I have burned my arms, my wrists, my fingers. And last week, I accidentally bit my own tooth and chipped a little right there. I guess, in addition to staying out of the gym, if I want to avoid further injury, I should avoid biking, going outside, staying inside, cooking, eating, and drinking. Hot take, injuries just kind of happen. You can't really avoid them. It's the main reason why your body has such robust mechanisms of healing itself when it has been injured. So if that's the case, and everybody watching this video, I assume, has endured some kind of non-gym related injury at some point in their life that they would probably see as an unavoidable consequence of day-to-day living, why do gym injuries seem so much scarier? In my opinion, it has something to do with a quirk of human psychology known as the availability error. Gotta take an early cat break. Be right back. What? Lily Bean was feeling left out of the video. The availability error occurs when we base our judgments on evidence that is vivid and memorable as opposed to reliable and trustworthy. I know that can sound kind of vague, so I'll give you an example. Everyone watching this probably knows, factually, that flying in a plane is statistically way safer than traveling by car. I know it, you know it, Superman knows it.
I hope this experience hasn't put any of you off flying. Statistically speaking, it's still the safest way to travel.
But in which of the two vehicles do you feel safer? Which of the two vehicles do you feel more worried in? Look at it this way. Dying in a plane crash is horrifying to imagine, and the stories that you've probably encountered in the news and in pop culture as a whole probably reinforce the horror of imagining dying in a plane crash. That's the type of availability that I'm talking about. Psychological availability, the ease with which you can imagine it happening. The power that that image holds in your mind. So it comes to mind much more readily and vividly when you are imagining the risks. With that in mind, which activity do you think has the most injuries on average per 1,000 hours of training? Weight training or running? Based on the fact that I'm asking, you can probably assume the correct answer is running, and it is. But hurting your knee in a squat seems much more dramatic than waking up one morning with a knee tendinopathy because you racked up your miles a little too fast. But the end result is still the same. Now, I've heard from multiple people, including people who are paid very well for their knowledge and perceived expertise, that the conventional deadlift has a bad risk to reward ratio. Someone with a six-figure salary in the fitness industry, in my personal opinion, should not be claiming that training to pick heavy objects up off the ground has a bad risk-to-reward ratio. But I guess this is where we are. So let's take a look at the risks and rewards. Risks. Rewards. I'm not saying that you're not gonna get hurt in the gym training with weights. If you train hard enough for long enough, injuries do happen. But compared to any other sport, the risk is way, way down. And when you consider the benefits, for me, it's a no-brainer. Let's say you do get hurt. What should you do? Let's take a look at it in a few simple steps. First, don't panic. One of the worst responses that you can have to an injury is catastrophizing it. So thoughts like, I'm so stupid for letting myself get hurt. This is going to ruin my gains. This is going to ruin my life. Your ability to heal and recover from an injury will most certainly be hindered if you allow this kind of thought spiral to take place. It's probably not as bad as it feels right now. So that brings us to step 2, which is move as much as you can. And that could be very little, especially when the injury has first happened. It might just come down to walking around a little bit, maybe doing kind of gentle movements of the affected area. There is a middle ground between doing everything and doing nothing. And doing something is invariably better than doing nothing. Step 3, deload. You are probably never going to know for sure what type of injury you're dealing with. The good news is that the vast majority of injuries only need at most a couple of weeks to heal. So if you're able to, you should continue to train, but when it comes to the affected area, you're going to want to dial down the intensity quite a bit. This will help you in a couple of ways. First, it will actually help you manage the pain much better because you are training your brain to recognize that movement of that area is not in and of itself dangerous. If I can demonstrate, for example, if I have back pain, that I can do a bodyweight Jefferson curl, just rolling down and rolling back up again. It may not feel comfortable, but I can know factually that that action is not causing me further harm. The other way that it helps is that it actually does help a little bit with the formation of scar tissue. Scar tissue kind of has a bad rap in fitness. It is what healing looks like. It's not a bad thing. Now, the scars themselves are made of collagen. We've talked a little bit about that in this video. And mechanical tension actually helps with the formation of those collagen fibers, and it kind of gives them guideposts of where and how to form, so the resulting scar will be stronger and more durable. Step 4, if needed, use a structured rehab protocol. You'll find a link in the doobly-doo to E3 Rehab and Barbell Medicine, both of which have really great articles on injury and rehabilitation and exercise. The articles themselves are free, but both sites also do sell programs and templates for rehabilitating specific injuries. What their approaches tend to have in common are the following. They start really easy. They tend to also start using some combination of isometrics, so you're basically just holding a single position under tension, and very slow tempos, which again, minimizes the amount of impact on the injured area and makes it possible to go through a full range of motion without causing further pain. And lastly, there's also a recognition that you do need to work through a certain amount of pain in the moment. Basically something that you find tolerable. The key is whether or not that pain persists the next day. If it does, you may have pushed a little bit too hard and need to ease up a little bit in your next training session. Finally, be patient. While rehab can ensure that the healing process is efficient and uninterrupted by further aggravating the injury, it won't really speed up the healing process. If you have an injury that is taking longer than a couple of weeks to heal, and you are going through a rehabilitation process, you have to accept you're not in charge of how fast this is going to go. Your body is doing this on its own time, and no number of massages or foam rolling or ice baths or acupuncture is going to change the biological realities of what you're dealing with. I know it can be frustrating, but if you let yourself succumb to that frustration and try to dive back into training full hog, you're setting yourself up for bigger problems. Even if the pain has generally gone down, bear in mind that the scar tissue that formed on the injured area is probably still going through its maturation phase. That is something that can take months if it was a major injury. And trying to max out just because the pain has basically gone away, once again, you are setting yourself for potentially re-injuring that site. I know this whole video is built around don't worry about injuries, they're not that serious. This isn't the case where it is serious. Because serious injuries do happen, and they do happen while lifting. And the worst thing that you can do is put yourself in a position where you have been going patiently through this rehab process only to have to start all over because you got excited and decided it was time to try to match what you could do pre-injury. You will catch up, you will get there. Just give it time and find aspects of the process that you can enjoy in the meantime because, let's be honest, this shit can be boring. Now, if you personally are watching this and you are recovering from an injury, either a recent one or one that happened months or even years ago and you're still dealing with that pain, working with a good coach can help. Me and my partner Raven happen to be good coaches. So follow the link in the doobly-doo if you would like to get in touch. Managing pain can be incredibly frustrating. I understand that. Trust me. At the very least, just sending that first email and talking to somebody about it can be a really important part of the process, even if you don't follow through on hiring a coach. Thanks for watching. Now go get friggin' strong.